Hello and happy Wednesday to everybody. Hope everybody's doing real well today. It's good to be here at Microsoft Ignite, of course, virtually, and hope everyone's being safe and healthy out there today. My name is Brian White. I'm a product marketing consultant from Dell Technologies, and I'm here to talk about fortifying your critical Azure data against cyber attacks using Dell PowerProtect Cyber Recovery. So we're going to have a good little time today just talking about a few things. And so sit back. I'll make sure I get to the question. There'll be a question and answer session near the end. So you can put your questions in the chat and we'll go from there. All right. All right. So first thing I want to know is what keeps you all up at night? You can put it in the chat. You can say it to yourself. I don't know where you are, but I'm glad you're safe and sound and here at this session, right? Uh, just wondering, what are the things that keep you up at night, right? When it comes to running a business, right? You always are wondering. I see ransomware. There you go. Ransomware keep you up at night, right? All kinds of things that can keep you up. They go bumping at night. That can jeopardize your business, right? And that's one of the big keys. But let's think about it. It's really money, right? Money is the thing that's there in the end, right? When you think about it, your business needs the money. Ransomware and hackers are trying to take your money, or they're trying to limit what your business can do. They're limiting your business functioning properly, right? Whether it doesn't matter where your business or what industry you're in, they're out there trying to take your money, limit your revenue, pause your business, pause your growth, but it's all about the money, all right? And think about it, ransomware. See, Joshua put ransomware in the chat. When a ransomware attack happens, oh my, it's nothing but chaos that's jumping off right then, right? You got to think about that. There's nothing that's calm about a ransomware attack. Even if you're prepared for it, there's still a little bit of a concern that comes in. A few statistics: 37% of the workforce can be laid off in an event of a ransomware attack, right? These are some numbers I'm gonna give you from a report that we had, right? People that have been hit with a ransomware attack, 35% report C-levels had to resign. And then, of course, about 33% had businesses temporarily suspended. Now, let's think about it. C-levels resigning, laying off the workforce, right? Your business stops. So there's a lot of things that happen when a ransomware attack happens, right? That's not just that really just doesn't say, hey, lock down the data, I can't get to the data. There's all these other things. Lawsuits actually come about, right? In the healthcare environment, there are hospitals that have been hit with ransomware attacks, systems have gone down, and patients have sued those businesses because of that. So livelihood is affected when it comes to ransomware. So you got to think about that. But what is it that helps against ransomware, right? You want to be cyber resilient, or cyber resilience comes into play. And in theory, what that means is being able to take a punch or get hit with an attack or some type of corruption, but you can brush it off because your business can keep on running and you don't have to worry about paying a ransom, right? And you can do all of this with confidence. So that's the key. Being able to keep your business going with confidence is important when we come here. So let's look at some best practices when we come to cyber resilience, right? I'm gonna hit just the two that are highlighted, right? The ability to ensure the ongoing confidentiality, integrity, availability, and resilience of process and systems. It means your data and your systems got to keep going, right? You want that in order to be cyber resilience. The bottom one: ensure backups are not connected permanently to the networks they back up. That is a big one, right? Keeping your data separate from attack surfaces. That's a big thing, and that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize, but that's what's important to have. So let's go on a little journey. How many people out there like to do mountain climbing or cliff hanging, right? Well, this person right here wants to be up on a mountain all by themselves, except for the person who ever took the picture, which could have been a drone, right? But what they are is they're completely isolated, per se, from everybody else. When you think about your critical data in your business that runs your business, you want to protect that data from any kind of ransomware attack, any kind of cyber hacks, infiltration. So you want to isolate that data somewhere else from those attack surfaces. Let's move it from the production environment where everybody has access to something else, right? So you want to isolate that data. That's one point. Let's go over to England, right? Stonehenge. These stones have been up for thousands and thousands of years, and they have not changed. They're not moving. No one's shifting. No one's pushing them over. Can't have a picnic on them. They can't change. So in theory, they're a bit immutable, right? Think about the data that you have. You only want your data to change based on how your business is run, meaning you don't want anybody to be able to go in and delete it. You don't want an outside person coming in to expand it, modify extensions on that data. You want that data to stay immutable where it cannot change unless it's supposed to change, meaning that's how your business runs. Okay. Let's go into a little sci-fi here, right? Let's think about some things. You got some zeros and ones and all kinds of information that you can get from your data, but one of the things you want to make sure is the data doesn't change. You want the intelligence on the data. Who's accessing the data? If anybody moved the data, or just the behavior of your data, right? Think about that, the behavior of your data. If I'm supposed to have this much data to every day, right? Week after week, I'm supposed to be generating this amount of data, 2%, 3% data changes, and all of a sudden I'm getting a 25% data change, a 35% data change. Something is different, right? And that's plus or minus data. You want to know, right? The intelligence comes into play to help you understand that concept. So when we think about cyber recovery requirements, right? Being able to be truly cyber resilience, right? You got to have modern ways to deal with all these modern threats. So you want to have the isolation of your critical data, right? That's where the physical or logical that you separated from those attack surfaces. You want some immutability, being able to preserve that data's integrity, right? Whether it's a retention lot based on you deleting it or based on a retention time period. And then you want your intelligence. You want some machine learning and some analytics to be able to understand who's accessing the data, how's your data moving, is it being manipulated? And you want it full context, not just metadata surface type, where you just go in and say, hey, did somebody change an extension? I want to know if somebody changed into my database information. That's important. Those things come into play. So when we look at these requirements, we bring in Dell PowerProtect Cyber Recovery. And what the solution does, it ensures and helps you be able to recover, right, in case of a cyber attack. Now, it's not in prevention mode, right? That's not what it's doing, right? We want people to make sure they have inline antivirus and things of that nature. But we're talking about being able to recover, which is why it's cyber recovery, right? So in this configuration that we have, everyone has a data center, right? Whether your data center is on premise in Azure, right? You got production data and you have a backup. Now in this view, you see backup, I have DD, which is the DD series or data domain that everybody knows about, right? Because what we're looking at here is using backup. The green icons are critical data. So in this configuration, we're talking about the critical data that you need to be able to recover in case of a ransomware attack. So what we do is we take the data from the data center and we open up an operational air gap to a cyber vault, right? And in that cyber vault, in the case, this could be on-prem or it could be in Azure, and we'll get even more in when we talk about the Azure configuration. But this vault actually calls for the data from the data center. That means the vault has different credentials, different network capabilities. All of the things are totally separate from your production environment, right? And the data center. Access, users, all that is totally different in the cyber recovery vault because we want to separate your production environment from your recovery environment. So once that data is synced over into the vault, as you can see, we make a copy and we're using data domains, so we're using M trees in that fashion. Then we take the data and we lock it, right? We want to make it immutable, right? Can't make it, we want it to change. And then of course, we want to do an analysis on it. We go in that analysis again, it goes through and it checks any changes that happen to that data. And what happens is a backup is run in the data center. That data is then copied over to the Cyber Recovery Vault, right? And this all is deduplicated, right? So saving network, saving space. And every time a backup runs, that analysis is run against that data and the previous backup. So it starts learning your data. Every time you do a backup, it's learning the data. So that's how it can tell when someone's in your system, been in your system for days, because we know ransomware attacks don't just happen in 2 days. People are in your system for months and weeks, and we can be able to tell that behavior that happens. That's what this Dell PowerProtect Cyber Recovery can do. Now let's shift a little bit, all right? Azure, where it's doing Microsoft, want data in the cloud. We want to make sure that the PowerProtect Cyber Recovery is available in the Azure market for those people that are protecting Azure resources, right? Keep your data in the cloud, right? That's how we do it. However, this solution can be multi-vaults, and you can have a vault in the cloud, a vault on premise, wherever you want, depending on the data you want to protect. Now, in Azure, the configuration is a little bit different, okay? So again, you have your data center that's on premise, and you have your cloud, right? There's Azure, and you have your backup data, right? So again, production environment, backup data using data domain. We do a sync, same concept, right? But this time we're syncing it into the Azure Vault into a small subnet VNet configuration, right? And in that configuration, as you can see, we have PowerProtect Cyber Recovery, which is the console solution that we're talking about here. We have a PowerProtect Data Domain Virtual Edition, right? We want to be able to deploy that there. And the Data Domain Virtual Edition is using Azure Blob as a storage. Same concept, we're doing sync copies and we're locking the data in Azure, right? Now, with all of this, you get the monitoring and reporting, as I mentioned, to help you with restores, and I'll show you quickly how the restores move as far as the patterns or paths that we have. But let's look a little bit more into the architect here that we got. Just check. Okay, so we got a data center. We're on-prem, in the cloud, however you want to call it. And now you got the Cyber Recovery Vault sitting up there in Azure. Got your own VNet that's sitting up there. Now, this is deployed, right, through JSON files that you would connect with Dell, and we would go through and get this configured for you. And the way it works is the JSON files go in and configures one private subnet so you can access all of the information in this VNet, right? And then it also configures a second subnet and deploys the cyber recovery solution along with the DDVE, or the Data Domain Virtual Edition, for your storage, right, in that aspect. And that cyber recovery solution is the thing that triggers and turns on and turns off the capabilities to move the data into the vault. So remember, as I said, with cyber recovery, the vault is what's controlling the sync. The primary service, the primary production does not control moving data into the vault. The cyber recovery vault controls it. It says, please give me the data, I'll take it. And once that data is sent, it's closed. That's in the Azure configuration, that's in the on-premise configurations. And as you can see, that data is moved to DDVE. Now, you think about the security parts, everything goes through separate networks, as I mentioned. The production environment has different credentials than the vault environment. You can see here, you're using a customer, his credentials are going through to access and move and communicate with the cyber recovery platform, right? And then the data is triggered, right, to be able to be pulled in from the data center, whereas on premises or in the cloud. So you get these different ways that the data is moved, and all of this helps with the security of making sure it's locked down, that the right people and the right content is being moved to and from the data that's there. Okay, a little animation there so you can see how it looks, right? So when you think about recovery options, being simple to recover, because hey, it's all about being recovering, right? It's not just backup. You got to be able to recover just in case something happens. So you got that cyber recovery vault, whether it's in Azure or on-prem or wherever you would like it to be. You could do simple reverse syncs, right? So if you're coming through finding that you were hit with a ransomware attack and you got to go in and find the data you need to recover. If it's simple to find and it's right there, it's like, oh, the backup was for 2 days ago, reverse sync, boom, back up and going. You can also use the backup applets that's there, right? In the Vault, PowerProtect Data Manager, Avamar, Networker, and some competitors also can all work using data domain to be able to do automated recoveries back to the production environment. If you got something on-prem or you want to do some VM instant access, you could do that. But think about this. People might want to use data to restore into a clean room to get a better understanding of what's happening, right? And the clean rooms and the Cyber Recovery Vault in Azure, all those things can also be considered and used as a DR site if you're moving all of your data, okay? If you're moving all of your data, okay? Now let's look at some of these things here. For Cyber Recovery for Azure, right? What we look at is secure public cloud vault, as I went through just the architect. Operational, I mean, it's automated when it does this offsite of the data. Pulling the data from on-prem up into Azure, that's all automated. So all the multi-layers of enhancements, security to get into the jump host, then to get in, security to get into a VNet with a jump host, and then be able to communicate across the multiple subnets to access the data. Flexible deployment, meaning that you can do it in multiple vaults, right? So if you got Azure sitting in the US and Azure sitting in Europe and Azure sitting somewhere in China, right? These can be deployed in multiple vaults as well as on-prem, right? And it allows you to do the recovery. Automated, orchestrated. For those people that want to leverage Azure for your marketplace and your subscriptions, you could do that. You definitely work with Dell to professionally assist in the deployments. As I mentioned, the JSON files that you'll need to deploy that create all of those resources through Azure Resource Manager helps the deployments be correct and validate that you're moving data correctly from on-premise up to the Azure Vault. Now, one thing I want to say, remember I said that the configuration for Azure was a little different than it is for just regular cyber recovery. So the isolation that we have, meaning moving data from on-premise or your cloud workloads to the Vault workload, that's isolation. You also have immutability already, but there's compliance immutability that is coming, right? And also the intelligence piece, those are coming soon to the configuration, right? So that all three of these together will give you full capabilities of understanding your threats, understanding the data's been modified or deleted or whatnot in that aspect, so you can truly recover it in your environments. Now, with the isolation helps for sure right now, and part of the mutability that's in there, those things do come into play to help recover that data with no problem as well. Now, when you think about PowerProtect, you're able to detect and recover quickly from cyber attacks, especially when you use the analytics piece, which is on the roadmap coming in for Azure. You can be proactive and automated when you're monitoring your information, as well as doing your backups and even your recoveries, right? You're future-proof your infrastructure because we're backing up pretty much any data that you're thinking of, right? If you're spanning, again, to multiple Azure regions, multiple Azure places, different workloads, we're protecting that data using regular backup solutions from Dell that integrate with data domain appliances, right? We've been doing this configuration for 6 years, and I don't know how many people have ever heard of Sheltered Harbor by raise of hands. Sheltered Harbor, right? Well, if you think about this, Sheltered Harbor is an organization that goes through to validate financial institutions to be able to recover data to make sure it's accessible for you when you go to the ATM and you want $500 out. Or you're going shopping when the holiday's coming up and your debit card works. Or you want to know how much money you have in the bank, you can get that information if that bank has been hit with a ransomware attack. Sheltered Harbor has that endorsement. Dell is the only company that's been certified with Sheltered Harbor when it comes to this type of certification for financial institutions, right? There are other vendors that are in the process. Right now, we're the only ones. First, there's others coming in soon, but that's important when you think about financial institutions saving your money. And when you think of these things, this is the simple way to become cyber resilient, right? What if our customers are saying? With PowerProtect Cyber Recovery Vault, we were able to get back up and running in about 4 hours rather than weeks. How many people been hit with a ransomware attack and been down for weeks, even months? Sorry, even some businesses have shut down because that's how severe the ransomware attack was. These folks were able to get up in 4 hours using our solution, right? PowerProtect Cyber Recovery will allow us to safeguard customer information while seamlessly integrating the solution into our existing technology. The Dell solutions, many people are already using a lot of the Dell hardware. This implements right into either Data Manager, Avamar, Networker. Those things makes it easy. And then here's the best one, I think. Well, actually, the first one was the best one, but remember I asked you what keeps you up at night? Ransomware was what Joshua mentioned, right? Well, look at Ken. Ken said we can sleep at night knowing the data is secure behind the curtain of protection with PowerProtect Cyber Recovery. Now, for me, that's important. That's what we want our customers to be able to do. Sleep with confidence, kind of like this guy right here, right? We want our customers to be able to feel like a big teddy bear, sleeping with a teddy bear, dreaming about teddy bears, not thinking about cyber attacks or ransomware, because our solutions can ensure to help them recover from those type of incidents. Okay. Now I'm gonna pause it for questions and then ask back. No, I went through a lot there, and I think I did it in what 21 minutes, about 21 minutes. Yeah, did that. So what we got? Okay, I'm gonna actually look into the queue over here, see what questions in the chat. All right, so Joshua, do customers typically place additional security tools in the vault to help ensure validate clean backups? Great question. So when we think about the cyber recovery configuration, matter of fact, I'm going to pull up the slide so I can talk in that one real quick. One of the things that's there is the, make sure I got the right one. There we go. The analyze piece. So our solution is not there again to prevent a cyber attack to happen. It's there to help you recover. So in your production environment, the expectation is that there are security tools. There are antivirus, there are network security. All these things are there on the data center. In the Cyber Recovery Vault, you don't necessarily need antivirus because it is a closed off network. Now, you may want to have network security from going into Cyber Vault, but you don't need antivirus into the vault, because what we're doing is we're limiting the resources that are in there using PowerProtect, data domain, whatever backup applet you have. But the good part about it is the analyst piece that it's analyzing your backup data, right? Now, let me back up a little bit. In your Cyber Recovery Vault, if you have other resources there, then yes, you want to make sure you want to have some kind of resources to protect your network. But it's being strictly used to replicate backup data. And that's the data that's getting analyzed immediately as it hits the vault, where it does the copy, then we do the lock. And then actually after that, it goes through and does the analyst, right? Checking to see if corruption, if any changes, all these things happen in that fashion. But we do want to make sure that the networks are separated. So you do network separate data diodes in that fashion. You can have some stealth solutions. All these things can come into place to separate that vault, whether it's on premise or in Azure as it is. So you definitely could use those. Hopefully I answered the question. Go back here. What's up again? All right, let's see. Another question. Oh, wait, let me jump up here. All right. Oh, that was saying if you want to come off mute, ask a question, raise your hand. I think Dimitri will let you off mute so we can chit chat, right? Another question. If I restore a server, do I rely entirely on cyber recovery to tell me if that server is compromised? So restoring the server, yes, cyber recovery can determine it if you need to do an entire restore of a server, right? Or it can determine if you just need to restore just files or information, whatever it is. But the key that comes in with it is as those backups are running across those servers, those applications that you have, and it goes and does the analysis and comparing it, right? There only may be some data that's corrupted. And if we're able to determine that, well, we should be able to determine that through the backup doing an analysis, we go out and find a clean backup for you. So you backed up for 4 days, and 2 days ago the backup was good. We're going to highlight and say, hey, 2 days ago this backup is good. You can restore this entire server back to your production environment, or you can actually restore it back to the production backup system and let it restore out. So you get the different options to be able to recover and restore the data however you feel, depending on what we find as far as what's corrupted. So servers, applications, databases, you name it, it can restore that data with no problem. Great question. Let's see. Any other questions there? I hit everybody. That is cool. That is good. I mean, I think this has been good. I mean, like I said, I want to make sure everybody can sleep like this at night, every night, with our solution to make sure that you have the confidence that you can restore your data using on-premise or Azure workloads. Either way, that is one of the important things here, being able to do this. Now, one thing you could do, and I should have had the link in here, but you could definitely go to delltechnologies.com. You can check out the cyber recovery page. There's a link to an interactive demo. So you can go out and run multiple Dell solutions in a demo mode so you can see how they work. Cyber recovery is there. There is a cyber recovery for Azure configuration that will help you go through step by step. Those things are available that can help you out. Okay. So I'm gonna pause to see if any other questions. Again, if you want to come on mute, you can raise your hand and let you ask the question. Well, I will say, I believe, hey, you guys and gals have been an awesome audience there. I appreciate the interaction. Thank you for the time today. Hey, stay safe, stay healthy, right? And just go out there and do some Azure stuff, right? Some Azure stuff. It's all good for you. I see you out there, Steve. I see you. Again, if any other last questions, just let me know. Again, Brian White, Dell, you can ping me on LinkedIn. I'm not really on Twitter, but if you got any questions or anything like that, hey, I'm around all the time there. So everybody, please enjoy and have a good time there and all the rest of your events here at Microsoft Ignite.